right, guys, welcome back to episode 4 of the Happy Hour Huddle podcast. We have myself here, Fidel. I'm joined along by the rest of the crew. We got Tim, Daniel, and John.
Hello. Hello.
What's up?
Yeah, well, welcome back,
Right.
Danny.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yes, welcome back.
yeah. I heard
Yes.
you guys were talking about my Cowboys, so we'll take that up with you guys later.
We got to hate while you're gone, bro.
It's all right, man.
We'll still say it to your face this week too, don't worry. But just under two, always remember to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell for us. It does us a ton of favors whenever you guys get our updates, as soon as we post. We filmed these over the weekend, but we're posting them on Tuesday evening around 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. John doing a great job editing. Thank you so much for taking care of that.
Yes.
Rest of us taking care of, some of the short videos that we have, and, stay tuned for those. Cause if you don't get a chance to watch it all in one, we'll throw out some short clips for you too. And, take a look at those also.
Yeah, Tim, you're the mastermind of those small clips though. So kudos to you, man. Thank you for that.
Don't emphasize the small. Just kidding.
Hey, Daniel, it's average, all right? Average.
We're average size.
It's all right. One man's trash is another one's treasure. So.
No, awesome. Yeah, but we'll get started with the pod in the episode. So we'll start. First topic we have for our just our happy hour is NBA worldwide growth. So one of the things, we had the NBA draft this past week. We saw some of the draft picks, and one thing I think we all sort of noticed was France dominating the lottery. A lot of French players are getting picked high up. So what do you guys think of this international growth, this worldwide growth within the NBA? Because it's next to soccer, I think it's the one sport that we used to be dominated by USA, and who knows what the landscape could look like in the next few years.
Yeah, personally, I think that the growth is a really great thing. Much like soccer, that's worldwide. I think the NBA is just making just a bigger footprint, around the world. And I think that just France is just really turning out a ton of talent. Last year we had Victor Wembanyama. This year we have several going in the lottery rounds here, and they all have professional experience from a young age. And I think right now around the NBA, most of the top 10 players in the league right now happen to be from Europe or elsewhere, Canada included. So I think the growth is exceptional. It's nice to see. It's going to keep the game going, and entertaining for sure.
And for me, I think it's interesting, right? I know the NFL does like international type of like they admit X amount of players from internationally, right? And so to see the NBA just go straight to a draft like worldwide, that's for me again learning that the NBA still, it's just amazing to me, right? And giving everybody essentially a fair opportunity. I'm totally for it. And that's all I got because I'm still learning.
It was great.
Yeah, like Daniel brought that up about the NFL having like the thing for the international younger players coming up. They do that in the NBA as well, but I believe it's in Africa, if I'm not mistaken. Trying to get all the young undiscovered players out there and trying to give them a chance to either like make it to college or go pro. Just something good, yeah. And yeah, like Tim said, a lot of the stars nowadays are international players. You got Luka, Jokic out there dominating.
I'm curious to see the Olympics. With all these international stars now coming about, right? And what that can do essentially with free agencies and things like that, right? After their performance or their debuts in the Olympics too.
Yeah, and that was something I had, I was going to mention, the growth of it's growing internationally. France, Luka, like Fidel mentioned, a lot of people right now. I saw a post, what is it? Barbados has Clay Thompson. They got a pretty stacked squad too, you know. So the Olympics this year will be showing a lot of the international stars and seeing where the NBA is going, because USA I still think will be very dominant. They got some of the best players still for Team USA, but all these other countries are going to be competing. It's not going to be like those magic, Jordan Olympic days, the dream team, where they were just destroying, all the competition. I think it's going to be a lot more competition. It's going to be tough for them, but Olympics coming up in a month. We'll see how USA basketball does and how this continues to grow, NBA for the NBA.
100%. Yeah, and you brought up the I think it's the Bahamas.
Or
They
Bahamas,
have
yeah.
some 3-point killers over there.
Yeah.
Buddy
Klay
Hield
Thompson.
and Clay Thompson. Yeah,
Yeah.
some snipers over there for sure. And then another point, as you guys were talking here, also it introduces different play styles. We see guys like Luka and Jokic, obviously a little bit different, body sizes, but just the way that they play the game, it's a little bit slower paced, but they still have just complete control. Sometimes on defense, it kind of can hinder a couple things in Luka's case, but, overall, they just make it look so easy. And it's really interesting to see, other play styles, that are learned elsewhere, maybe something that becomes popular in Euro League or Spanish League or Greece, you name it. It's really interesting.
I also think the growth of basketball international is happening because just like soccer, it's an easy game to play to get it going, at least, because you just need a ball, you need a hoop, a couple of people, and get a game going. It's not like all these like football, you need 22 people. Basketball, you can just get like 4 people and have 2-on-2.
Yeah.
Well,
The concept, yeah, like you said, the concept is just so easy to grasp.
Yeah, for sure. And one topic I think for the future that sort of goes with what Fidel was sharing is, I when thinking about this topic and many other topics, I've thought about like, which sport is it to get, is it the hardest to become a pro at, or get in that pro level? Because with NBA, NBA is the number one goal, but there's a lot of leagues in Europe, the Spanish league, in France, China, we see Dwight Howard playing
Russia,
internationally, and they're making good money, better than normal Americans. Same thing with soccer, the main goal is Europe, England, Spain, Italy, Germany, but there's still like other leagues in Singapore, so, and I think it's something we could talk about another episode, but which league do we feel like maybe the hardest to break through? Because like, even MLB, the big show here in the States, but if you go to Japan, it's big in Japan. So there's a lot of avenues, but which one do you guys, what do you guys think is the hardest one to get into? I think is a good topic for us to discuss in some future episodes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think NBA, just due to lack of roster spots. NFL, you just have more players on the field. Obviously, all are just extremely difficult. I mean, you're top 1% of 1% to get into any of these leagues. But baseball, their drafts are just so large. And they have several teams for several, different organizations, and it's a little bit easier to break through, I feel like, but overall, just due to roster size in general, the NBA, but once you're there, those paychecks, wow.
If you look at some of the paychecks some of these players have gotten just today, the start of, where players could start talking and negotiating, they're making some money, and they're players that we wouldn't think they could. So
Max Christie, 4 years, 32 mil today,
Yeah.
I think. I mean, future role player. And good for him. Crazy.
Yeah. Awesome. Next topic we have is we don't just talk about sports, we talk about a lot of other things: entertainment, movies, TV shows, music. But one of the things we thought about bringing it up is are we binge watchers, or do we like watching episodes weekly? One big show right now out for me that I like to watch is House of Dragons, and I would prefer to see that all at once. I'll say I'm a binge watcher. I enjoy watching it all sitting for hours. It's a lot harder now with the kiddo to sit 10, 12 hours, with the wifey. But we still try to binge watch when we get that chance. But I enjoy to binge watch a lot more than waiting for weekly releases, because that anticipation sometimes just gets tough.
No doubt. Yeah, in my opinion, I'm just like you, John. Binge watching is my way to go. It kind of keeps everything fresh on the mind when they release it all at once, and you just kind of get addicted to it. And before you know it, you're watching the full season of like 12 plus episodes, whatever it may be. And a day's gone. But like some other shows, for example, that don't include that, Mandalorian, I absolutely loved watching, but I think that was a weekly release, kind of season. And I would actually end up saving a couple just to, like, I wouldn't watch for like 2 weeks, and then, or at least in the beginning, I wouldn't watch, and then save a few and then kind of binge watch those and then wait for the rest. So
I'm like complete opposite. So like the last show I watched was Shogun, and I actually preferred it being weekly because my ADD is just like it's just not there, right? So I always tell my wife's a big binge watcher, right? And like Suits, we binge watch that whole thing. But sometimes like sitting there for 3 hours just watching 3 episodes, I'm like, oh man, like I just need to move. Like for me, it's just tough. But Suits new season's coming out tomorrow, so we're excited for that. I'll probably try not to binge watch it, but I think it's at my wife's discretion at this point. But the Shogun, I was glad that it was like weekly episodes. Really enjoyed the show. Highly recommend it, but yeah, definitely not a binge watcher. You got me for like one episode, maybe two, and then I need a break.
Yeah, I think I'm the same way as Daniel. I can only do like maybe 2, 3 max, and I'm done. Because I haven't binge watched a show since probably like 2019. That was leading up to like the last season of Game of Thrones. So it's been a while for me.
Oh man. And I have to get on that Game of Thrones so I can watch the House of Dragons.
No,
No?
not necessarily.
Well, it's a prequel, right?
Yeah, it's a prequel, so you really don't need to watch it. There's some like Easter eggs, from the Game of Thrones and House of Dragons. So if you know the story, you'll get it, but not necessarily need to watch all of Game of Thrones to watch House of Dragons.
Another I guess like little sub question I have for you guys, is there a show in general that you guys have kind of gotten like low-key addicted to, like where you'll go back and re-binge watch it or rewatch certain episodes again? For me, it was The Office. Like, I could watch that anytime. Just it's just the greatest, and I'll laugh every time too.
And that's the show I can binge watch. Actually, I actually started binge watching that show because the episodes are so short, and I think it's so easy to get 4 or 5 in like 2 hours, 3 hours, and yeah, no, but you can never get tired of that show. I agree, man. That and The Simpsons.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll say I binge watch a lot of stuff repeatedly. The Office, Parks and Rec.
That's another one.
Me and the wife, we just finished rewatching Sons of Anarchy. When there's nothing to watch, we just figure out like what show haven't we watched in a while, and we just watch it from the beginning. Because sometimes watching it multiple times, you see things you didn't see that first run. So that's why we've always enjoyed a binge watch and watch things multiple times. Like Fallout, when it came out, I think I saw it. Took me about a week to watch it all, but then I took another week to watch it again. So I watched it twice within 2 weeks because it was just like there was so much. And like I say, being a gamer, really having that as one of my top games ever to play and that I've always enjoyed, it was a show I really liked.
Here I am 2 months later and still haven't finished it. I have 2 episodes left, so
it's a good one.
But yeah, it's definitely good, but this is where like the binge watching, right? I'm like, not even
that bad. I think I've only watched like 2 episodes.
And And I think that's one of the reasons I like to binge watch, because I think those weekly episodes, like when I have to wait, I get stuck on something else and then I don't go back to it. So that's why then I get, I forget about it. So that's why for me, the binge watching is just like, all right, I'm just going to watch this show right now. Not going to get distracted with anything else. Just binge watch this and then move on to the next one.
I don't know, as far as like shows that I won't say I like rewatch stuff more often. I just like put it on as a background noise. You don't pay attention to it, because I'm like, oh, I've already seen this. I know what happens, and I can just hear like the dialogue going on, and I'm like, oh, I'll know like already what's like happening. But I have it more as like background noise sometimes.
You wait for the funny scenes to come out, and that's when you pay attention.
I'll do that with Friends. I'll do that with The Office.
Yeah, The Office,
do that with
chili
Pawn
scene, the chili
Stars.
scene.
Yeah, with the Workaholics and stuff like that. I'll do that with those shows.
Fidel's that guy. Hey, mind if I put on some white noise real quick? And it's like the Office theme song going off.
That's better than my white noise when I'm working. I usually put like Pawn Stars or something just to have background noise.
Best I can do is 5.
Oh yeah, but shows. You guys watching out there. If you guys have some shows that you could recommend for us, something on Netflix, Hulu, whatever, streaming service to binge watch, or like Danny and Fidel that like to watch weekly, maybe just watch 1 or 2 episodes a week. Let us know. I'm always looking for new things. Me and Vera, we're always like searching everything, all the streaming services for shows. So any suggestions will help.
Let us know how Under the Bridge is, unless you guys have seen it, but I heard Under the Bridge on Hulu's pretty good.
It's really good. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when I finish Fallout.
I will admit also, Jen is making me watch, well, she's not making me, I'm actually just watching it. The Cowboy Cheerleader show that's out right now.
That's right.
Yeah. And like making the team or whatever.
What platform is that on?
It sounds like TLC to me.
Netflix.
Okay, I just want to watch for science purposes,
Of course.
The only success the Cowboys will ever have in a while. So enjoy it.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
A win is a win.
Remember the names of all the girls when you're watching during season. Oh, look, Tiffany, she made the squad.
She had some trouble week 2, but really came back week 3.
Like she was my personal favorite.
She dropped her pom-pom week 3.
Awesome. Next, we want to do a quick remembrance for Orlando CEPEDA. So another legend lost. I think every episode we've gone over a legend that we've lost, which is always unfortunate because a lot of these players have made big differences in whatever league they were playing in. And I know Tim had, a little story he wanted to share about him, so I'll let Tim take it away.
Yeah. So, it was a really, obviously unfortunate coincidence because of the passing of Orlando. But I was telling my dad because, I've kind of just through card collecting lately, I've kind of, brought some things up to him and was just kind of showing him some things I got. But I actually just received this Orlando CEPEDA signed card a couple days ago on Friday. And I was just wanting to share it with him because, it was kind of during the time of when he was starting to get into baseball and his, childhood and everything. So he's like, oh, yeah, he had texted me back that day. And he's like, oh, yeah, I actually ate breakfast with him one time. And I'm like, wow, like that's a crazy story that I've never heard after 32 years of my life, and a cool one. And then, later that evening, I was listening to Dodgers Giants on the radio, and then they kind of played back what the PA announcer said of, unfortunately, Orlando had passed and, they just wanted to, have a moment of silence for him between innings. And immediately I called my dad because, the coincidence was just so bizarre, just having randomly talked about him earlier in the day. So I reached out to him and, my dad then, went over his story of meeting him because I was genuinely curious. And the story, it goes that they were traveling to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for my grandfather's, I guess, work trip at that time. But I think my my dad and my grandma kind of made it into like a little mini vacation while they were there. So, but both of his parents were kind of off, doing their thing. But my dad for breakfast went down, 12-year-old kid, back in the day, just go down, at the street and get, some breakfast at the diner. So he went down there and he was sitting at the countertop table, where all the servers and cooks are, and just was kind of sitting there by himself. Then in walks Orlando and sat directly next to him out of the whole restaurant. And they were just kind of sitting there, but my dad kind of noticed he looked kind of nervous and anxious. So he actually, just out of a whim, turned to him and was like, "Hey, is everything going okay? You seem a little nervous today." And then Orlando turned towards him and he's like, "Yeah, I'm nervous. This is my first All-Star game I'm about to play in tonight." And I was like, as soon as he told me that, I'm like, wow. So, and he said he was just nervous. Obviously, it's a big platform. He's an up and coming player, but, good enough to make that roster. And I actually went back and looked at the roster. And I mean, you had guys like Willie Mays on the roster. You had Hank Aaron playing at the time. It was just a tremendous team. But, they went on to, kind of discuss over breakfast, getting up to that point and, just kind of a little bit about themselves. But my dad finish off with just saying what an incredibly kind and humble person he was, almost to the point of being a little bit shy. So, it just speaks true to who he is, willing to pick up a conversation with a random 12-year-old boy at a cafe. So, rest in peace to Orlando, but really cool story. Shame I barely found out now, but yeah, really neat to hear about. It's a good sense of history. And, I think all of this might make my dad feel a little bit aged, but really cool memory for him to look back on.
Hey, cool Father's Day gift, that card that you got next year.
No kidding. Yeah. Was thinking about it in August. They're going to be here, so maybe a little handoff to him.
Yeah. I'm over here giving your cards away. You're like, shut up, Danny.
No, it's mine. But yeah, no, I was thinking that too, though. Just for the memory in general.
Yeah, it'll be handed down eventually back to you and then to your kids. That's one that lives in your collection for a while. So no, yeah, awesome
Absolutely.
story, Tim. I think that's really cool to hear your dad's experience. And I think hearing those type of stories with all types of athletes who are just very humble and giving the time of day, especially to kids, and even to some adults, that bring up these childhood memories. Those are the athletes that really just inspire me a lot and just really motivate, because they're, a lot of them nowadays have a lot of money, and they let it get to their head, but there's still those that are genuine and just real people and have those conversations. So that was awesome to hear.
Yeah, I agree. I've met a couple professional players in my life where half of them have been really nice and the other half are like, why are you talking to me? You're like below me. So no, that's a cool story, bro. Thank you for sharing.
No, absolutely. Thank you guys for letting me have the time, for sure.
All right, next we have our say what segment. So this is where we do some ranking, and with 4th of July coming up this week, like I said, Tim mentioned it, we record on Sundays. This comes out Tuesday. 4th is on Thursday this year. So the one thing we wanted to do is sort of rank 4th of July foods. What are some of the top foods that we eat during 4th of July that we enjoy? It could be a cultural thing, just traditional, but what do you guys think is the top foods for 4th? And I could start with what I have as like my number 5. I have carne asada, and that's just more, I think, more of a cultural thing. Being in a Hispanic household, it's the one thing you can't have a party without a carne asada. So it's like I'm always ready for that carne asada. So that I had to put that in for the 4th food, because like I say, we have it every celebration. So something you can't miss out on.
I can go next. I'll say for me, apple pie would be my number 5.
It's a cool
one.
Yeah. And then for me, I had nachos, and can't forget the jalapenos, right? When I think 4th of July, I think of like, sitting at the ballpark, eating your nachos, kind of just the LA Dodger Stadium, fireworks after. That's that's the vibe I get. So nachos with the jalapenos.
There it is. My number 5 was bratwurst. It's just the solid dog. It's a good tradition, growing up, just cooking those. We wouldn't have them often, but 4th of July, it's a good time to barbecue, get outside. And it was just, yeah, I was interested, in eating those at a young age, and I know they have different flavoring. So it was good stuff. And then it's kind of dropped a few ranks for me, since I was younger, but burgers, I'm going to throw up there for sure. You just can't go wrong. It's easy. And, if you've been, diving into some beverages, a burger is a great thing to have. So,
yeah.
And for me, my number 4, I had hot dogs because, I mean, or at least out here in LA in particular, like the LA dogs, the bacon wrapped dogs with the grilled veggies on top, all the good stuff. You can have them anyway, right? So I had those at my number 4.
My number 4 is also hamburgers, cheeseburgers.
Nice. For my number 4,
Solid
I had
go-to.
it is a solid go-to. I have it a little higher, but for 4, I have a grilled corn. That's something we've always had, that corn. You don't even have to make it like the street corn. It's just, I just like putting salt, pepper, even some tahini and with lemon, and I'm good. So that's something I know, just within my family, my mom always makes. So I've grilled corn. And then number
I had
3
some today, so
nice.
All right.
It's good. For number
best,
3,
right?
number 3, I have a watermelon. It's the one fruit I think I've always had for 4th of July. You just got those watermelon slices and just bite them. As kids, I remember just munching on them. So I had watermelon. It was another 4th food.
My number 3 is hot dogs. Yes, bacon wrapped, like Danny said earlier. Can't go wrong. Nice little grilled onions, some grilled peppers.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And then my number 3, that's where I had the carne asada. I had it a little higher up, but like Inga said, growing up, cultural food, you always have to have that on deck. That's just like mandatory. So carne asada for me.
There you go. My number 3 is going to be hot links. I one and done for me because the spice gets to me. But for sure they're just delicious. And I've never really had a bad one. So and then next is going to be a 3-layer dip. I just the elements that are within it with the tortilla chips, it's just like such an easy eat and something you can walk around with. So 3-layer dip for sure.
And for me, it would be hamburgers, right? Can't go wrong with hamburgers. I think that's more of like 4th of July based kind of foods. Yeah, so hamburgers it was on my list next.
My number 2 is carne asada, and like they said, it's a cultural thing. Can make tacos, burritos, throw it on some nachos.
Yep.
Yeah, that carne asada, you could do a lot with it, so it's not a bad thing. For me, number 2, I had hamburgers. I'm just a fan of them, especially for 4th of July. Is the one thing I really am always looking forward to eating, because I'm used to eating out hamburgers, going to Habit, stuff like that. But when you make it, at home on the grill, it's just a whole different flavor, with all your just own toppings. So I have hamburgers. And then my number 1, hot dogs. I've always enjoyed eating hot dogs on 4th of July. So one thing, like I say, just like hamburgers, I look forward to, because it's not a normal thing in a Hispanic household that we will have for grill outs, barbecues, things like that. I think usually they have the hot dogs for the little kids, not for the adults. We can't really eat that food because little kids, all they have is hot dog pizza. So, I enjoy it on the 4th of July.
My number 1 would be ribs.
Ribs. Come on.
Yes.
Nice.
Right. The saucier, the better, right?
Uh-oh.
Oh, I don't know. It happened to me earlier.
Let us know, Daniel.
Connection got a little. We got to edit this out. No, my my number one is chili cheese fries. That's where it's at for me. Chili cheese fries. I think that's like a staple. At least for me. I'm a sucker for them, so I got them at number one.
I think we keep the pause in there. It was dramatic. I liked it. And then number one, I was gonna put beer on there, but you can't really eat it. So instead, my other top one was kind of a tie. Ceviche, talking about culture.
Ooh.
15 years with the wifey now. I've been influenced well, and ceviche just, oh God, it's so good. And when it's cold, it's a hot day, it's a delicious eat.
It's refreshing during those hot days now.
Ceviche with the cold beer, can't go wrong with that.
Oh yeah, it's the way to do it.
Yeah, awesome. No, I think that's a good list. I think we all had a lot of similar stuff. We've all enjoyed a lot of that stuff. But yeah, to all our listeners, share your list. Share what you guys eat. What are your guys' top 5 foods? Because if it's not something on our list, it may be something we want to try to incorporate. Bring into, and even just trying it. Because like I say, we're always here to try stuff. So we'll head into banter with the boys. Some banter for this week. I know we already got Danny a little bit with these Cowboys. Last week he missed out on the Cowboy conversation.
Right? How is he gonna respond?
You know what? Let bygones be bygones. I'll spare you guys because I'm actually, and you guys can attest to this. I'm not the Cowboys fan that's gonna say this is our year. I never say that. I'm always the realistic kind of Cowboys fan. Or I'm like, we're gonna be like, 10-7 or whatever this season. I'm realistic, so we'll let the season speak for itself when we get there.
I love how we're like really, we're still a good distance from football season, but it's always the Cowboys.
It's so good. It's the one team you just can't get away from, talking about. Like,
yep,
they're always doing something that is just like really,
Hey, you know what? Not as bad as the Raiders, though. Okay, so let me just throw that out there in my defense.
I said the Cowboys is either you love them or you hate them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you guys hate them.
True.
All you whiners.
Yeah. I don't know. This is so easy to, they're labeled America's team, but a lot of America doesn't like them. So, just an easy target in general. It's kind of like people with the Yankees or Red Sox. It's just, yeah, you love them or hate them. There's no real like, oh, I don't mind them.
I got a lot to see. Oh yeah, I mean, your logo says it all. 1-star rating. I'm just like, it's too easy, It's easy.
Yeah, it's good times though. It keeps the banter alive and well, and
it does.
Yeah. But one other banter item for sure too. I think Fidel, you definitely need to be attending Chargers camp, filming it a little bit for the channel here, and just bring one pair of khakis. Get those bad boys signed, and just put them.
It's all right, man. I'll get a hard to sign it on the butt pocket.
There you go.
You have anything Michigan? Get him to sign something Michigan.
Nah, man, I'm not a Michigan guy. I'm a UCLA guy.
Hey, but you can get Michigan and get Harbaugh to sign though.
Maybe we'll see.
But
now that we're in the same conference, I can't, bro.
Oh, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all right. Maybe I'll get us some tickets this season. Tim, you might have to make a trip out here.
There you go. Yeah. No, we got to decide on a game for sure.
Go watch that boring defensive battle, that Iowa game.
Dude, take the under. I'm telling you. I mean,
No.
deep battle of the defenses for sure that game. But yeah, it'd be a fun little excursion. I know that, not all of us have been to a college football game before, so it'd be a good time.
Yeah. Any of you
I've
colleges
only
out
been
there?
to one college game.
Oh, which game?
One college game. That was the TCU Georgia championship game. I don't know if you guys
yeah,
remember
I
me
think
sending
you.
the
Yeah, yeah.
pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember now.
What a one game to
Dude.
go to, huh?
Loud, extremely loud the whole time. My ears were all like, "Rrr, rrr, rrr." I had to put like a little pieces of a napkin in my ear to kind of settle it down a bit. But it was like the best environment ever, man. I 10 out of 10 recommend college games.
Yeah, that blowout, huh?
Oh yeah, we're at the gift shop like third quarter because it was just done.
Mhm.
But now it was it Georgia Bulldogs, also known as the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, they have drafted a lot of Georgia players.
Yeah, I think like half their defense is Georgia.
So we'll go into some hot takes. Like we mentioned, it was the NBA draft this past week. And one of the things I think, not just news-wise for us, I think we talked about it a little bit, but it's been talked about, I think, all over Sports Center, was Bronny James, and just, is he going to get drafted? And some of these reports of Rich Paul calling teams to say, if you draft Bronny, he's not going to play for you. He's going to go to Australia, I think it was. So, what do you guys think of that? The people say, it's that Nepo, trend that's going on with all these celebrities. We saw it with, what was it, Northwest doing the Lion King, Kardashian, Kanye West, kiddo. But what do you guys think of it?
Yeah, I feel like it definitely, nepotism, of course, exists. And it's with the Warriors franchise too, to an extent where Steve's, son is the coach of the Santa Cruz Warriors, the G League team. So, you got to believe that, part of the reason he got there is, I'm sure, obviously he's qualified, but, it helps. And then, going along, I mean, statistically, you look at Bronny's stats in college, I think he averaged like 4 points a game, didn't get a ton of minutes. There's better players on USC last year with him. But, just Bronny James, that last name carries so much value. And I think in this situation, Rich Paul, I think went as far as, ensuring that the Lakers, drafted him. I think that he was practically acting as GM of the league practically. I think he was reaching out to other teams and telling them, do not draft Bronny. It's not going to end well, kind of thing. Is what one report I read. So yeah, it's interesting how kind of all of that went about. And, it definitely did a complete 180 from, earlier in the season where, LeBron had said he didn't really care to play with Bronny. So
Do you really think he cared though? I think he cares. I think he wants to play with the
Oh, yeah.
son. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah. He carries on the tradition like the Griffeys did. It's historical, it's a once in a lifetime chance.
And I didn't know that there was talks about him playing for Australia. And that kind of goes back to the beginning topic that we discussed, right? How NBA is just worldwide now, and they can play wherever and essentially be the superstars for that league.
It honestly probably would have been better if he would have gone to Australia. He still needs to develop, man. But hey, when your dad's the star player slash lead GM,
Yeah.
he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, no, I agree with all those points. I think it happened just because LeBron James is still in the league. I truly think if he wasn't in the league, I don't think these teams would have cared to draft him. I don't even think the Lakers would have given him the opportunity, because there are a lot of better players that were out there in that draft pool that should have gotten the spot. But like I say, nepotism is in all sports. Like Tim mentioned, in TV entertainment. It's something that I think we always are just going to have to live with. And it's really going to show a lot of, these younger people, trying to get into the sports, NBA, NFL, movie industry. Just so you got to work harder. You really got to show what you can. And if you can make it without having that, I'm not going to say that handout, but that help, you've done amazing work. So it's crazy to see it, but it's not surprising.
Something they say in the corporate world is you got to know somebody, right? So,
Mhm.
unfortunately,
Well, at least they didn't waste the first rounder on him,
That's true.
because I heard
Yeah.
a lot of that. Did you guys see their first round pick? The guy, his last name is pronounced Connect, and he
Yep.
picked number 4. Smart move right there. Connect 4.
Like that. Yeah,
nice
no, he's a
conspiracy
stud.
theory.
Hey man, makes it simple. If he's decent, he already has his built-in hashtag Connect
Yeah.
4.
Connect more.
Better version of Reeves, maybe. If Reeves ends up getting shipped somewhere, for a more dominant star, possibly. I think that there's some talks with that. But yeah, Connect was a baller over at Tennessee. He
Mhm.
was great, huge scorer. He's kind of just an immediate plug and play for them. So,
Mhm.
and then shout out my Warriors finally drafting a 7-footer. Thank God.
Yeah. No, and that sort of leads to our next topic. Free agency just started. So, what are your guys' thoughts so far on some of these free agency moves? What are you guys predicting for your teams? For me, my Clippers, we'll see what we do. PG pretty much has already said he's leaving, and reports are saying Philadelphia. I heard the Warriors for a bit, Philadelphia, but seems like it might be Philly. Clay to the Lakers. That's what it's sounding like. Um, but yeah, what are you guys thinking of? What are your predictions
I
for free
haven't
agency?
I haven't been following too much on the free agency. And again, I'm still dabbling in the NBA, but curious to get your thoughts since you're a Clipper fan, right? Paul George, from what I've heard, he's basically out of his prime by now and just kind of falling out. Do you agree with that? And do you feel like it's good for the Clippers for him to transition him somewhere else in free agency?
I feel like he is falling out of his prime. I think he still gives whatever team he goes to a great shot. So going to Philadelphia, they need that one player, and he could sort of put him over the top. Um, when we traded for Paul George, I just didn't like the trade at all. We got rid of Shea. That was the one player I was like, please don't trade him. He's gonna be a star in a few years if you give him the opportunity. And he was a one piece along with what is it? I want to say like 50 draft picks to 50 first rounders because we haven't had a first rounder in a while because of that trade. And
No.
it, it frustrated me. I was hoping for good things. They looked like they had the ability to make a run, but they never did due to injury. So, best of luck to him wherever he goes. He is going to go to a contender most likely. So,
Yeah. My Warriors. It's a tough discussion right now. I'm giving us like an F- at the moment. We can't seem to convince Clay to stay, no matter the dollar amount at this point. I thought the offer we gave him seemed to be pretty good for where he's at in his career. I mean, he's still going to be making over 20 mil, but I think some other things are going on behind the scenes there. I think that ever since Myers left, it's been a little rough in the front office. So, and then to read about how we could have offered CP and Wiggins in gotten Levine would have been really nice. But hearing that we decided to turn that down and just waive CP. So a little brutal, that we're just kind of at a standstill at the moment, unless something went live right now. But, PG was an opportunity, but it just, it seems like everybody that we're in contention to get is injury prone, maybe past their prime. Levine is no stranger to being injured. PG, same thing. So, it's
Sounds
tough.
like the Cowboys offseason.
A lot of nothing. A lot of nothing.
You could cry on my
Yep.
shoulder.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Since I really don't follow a certain team, I'm just excited to see what like the Mavericks and
Mhm.
the Timberwolves do to upgrade their teams because they're young right now.
Yeah.
Just to see what they can put together to build on the seasons they had this year.
Yeah. For me, CP3 to San Antonio, a bit of a surprise. I think it's great for Wemby. I think we were talking about it a little bit. Wemby learning from CP3 will be really good because Wemby does have some handles. But a surprise for me because CP3's, I think, a few years from being out of the league and doesn't have a ring. So I would have expected him to go to a contender and try to help them go over the top. I think he could have been pretty good in Minnesota, helping that team out, even, even in with Dallas. I don't know how it would work with Kyrie, but still having that presence, of a CP3 would have made a difference for some of these contenders.
From what I hear, CP3 is a good person to have in the locker room. Is that
Mhm.
is that the real consensus, or am I wrong there?
Yeah, I'm sure he is, especially now. I mean, his knowledge alone. I know we were kind of discussing this earlier. I think worst case scenario with San Antonio, he provides, just more knowledge, even if the Spurs only get maybe 5 wins more, whatever it may be, but at least the development, for not just Victor, but maybe some of their young guards that they have.
Yeah.
Will just open up a lot more opportunity for Victor anyway. So, but yeah, I'm sure he's a great locker room presence when he is on your team. But I just, when it comes to playoff time, and contention, oftentimes he finds a way to get injured. Can't really blame it on him, but it's just bad luck.
Or hypothetical here, now that he's in San Antonio, obviously, as you guys are mentioning, not a contender. Maybe he's thinking long term, right? As far as career wise, is to transition into like that coaching and become a coaching staff member, and say, hey, look what I did to develop X team, and look where we are, and hire me.
Look at
Pop
this
is
guy.
getting older.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, I was about to say he's under Greg Popovich, so that's a great
Right.
person to learn on how to be a head coach. So yeah, it could that could be his route. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, I don't think there's been any big. I'm checking right now, big free agent moves, but other than Chris
Yeah, I think
Paul,
you guys re-signed Harden.
re-signed
I
Harden.
think it was for quite a bit of money. I think it was 2 years, 60, right?
Yeah. So I think Harden, Kawhi, they're gonna say Westbrook. I heard that they're trying to trade him, even though he picked up his option. So curious who's gonna want to take Westbrook, but for what he did for us this last year, I think there's a lot of teams. I'm hearing he might go to Denver. That was one option. So
Wow.
with the Joker, that could be a pretty
Yeah.
tough. They're already a tough team and could make him even tougher this next year.
Weren't they ranked number 1 in the playoffs?
No,
Or
okay,
were-
OKC
No,
was
OKC.
OKC was, yeah.
OKC was the first.
Oh, okay, so
number one seed.
Okay. I know they were like up there though, like 1 or
Yeah.
like 2, maybe even, right?
Yeah.
OKC is going to be good for years to come because they're young and number 1 seed, and like John mentioned earlier, slew more of picks. So they
Mhm.
ton of wealth there.
Yeah. All right.
What do you guys think about that Mikal Bridges trade that happened earlier in the week? Going to the Knicks. Mhm.
They're all in it.
Yeah.
All in for
Right.
that win. Like they got a solid team. They're not young, but they're not old. So I think they're playing to win now. Like I say, New York, winning at Madison Square Garden would be electrifying to be in that arena if they make it to the finals and win it, because that's one place. But they're all in it to win, because that was a lot they gave up.
100%. Yeah, I'd root for them out of the East for sure. They're just a fun team. In a big name being forgotten over there is Julius Randle. He was injured, most of last year, but he's still there. Although I am curious to see how that team's going to work out when he's back, because he's pretty ball dominant. He can score and he has like 2-3 game spans where he's putting up 40-50 points a game, and then takes a break from that and puts up 10. But just kind of curious to see how that offense will run. But they obviously know each other well from the national championship. So
look at me learning about NBA.
yeah. And like I said, there's some of these listeners that we have, thank you again for still listening, hearing our takes. We're here to just talk about what we enjoy talking about. We're always talking about this daily in our text message group still, even with this episodes that we bring out weekly. But yeah, it's just something we enjoy to have fun, how to pass the time. Yeah, one of our next hot takes, we have the evolution of Sketch, the YouTuber. Used to be a big Madden streamer, playing Madden, and now even a freestyle rapper. His name's getting popular. So what do you guys think of just the evolution of Sketch and even some of these other social media star streamers that were nothing before and now they're big household names?
Yeah. Well, for me, I feel like in our group chat, I'm just constantly sharing Sketch, posts or whatever. Lately it's of course been his freestyle rapping, which is like, honestly, he's really good. And if it's all off the fly, he's just a jack of all trades at this point. He just kind of keeps on bringing out these like hidden talents, and when you do stuff like that, it keeps your audience engaged. You're not a one-trick pony, and you just kind of keep it rolling. And looking back at it, a lot of these YouTubers who have made it, to great lengths, you look at, say what you want about Jake Paul, but I think was in the top 4, paid boxers, last year. So, he took a YouTube career into whatever you want to call it, a professional boxing career. He's just coming up with new things and making it interesting. And I think that's really what it takes. And, if you're good at it, then, do what you got to do to get paid.
I don't know too much about Sketch, but I do know that you keep sharing those videos. So
I'll keep doing it.
Yes, please do.
Right. For me personally, I like any video where it has like Sketch, Jinxie, and Queso. Those are my big 3 streamers now.
Queso.
When they're together, it's nothing but laughs.
And my kid talks about Queso.
And for me, I think it's just great to see. I think that may be like, for us, it's probably a goal that maybe we could get to there one point. Who knows? We're doing this for fun right now, just like a lot of them started for fun. But seeing them develop that way and just be genuine, it's awesome to see, like Sketch and Jinxie Queso. But the one thing I think I wanted to note with these social media stars is I like it when they keep it real and they're just very humble about it, because they are making a lot of money, and it's just due to real people watching you. And I've seen some of these social media stars who sort of go just too much sometimes, where I'm just like, are you guys really doing that? Like, that's not what you guys started out as. Just because you got this money, it gets to your head. It's like you got to slow it down. But Sketch,
they start going rogue.
Yeah, I enjoy Sketch. I think he's a very humble guy from what I've seen from his videos, just genuine, and just is having fun, and being himself, not trying to be something else that he isn't.
Yeah, it's a great point. Like, I've seen him in clips, at his local golf course, even kids walk up to him, want to take a photo, whatever it may be, and he'll just like make it a conversation. And shirts on camera, but he's pretty consistent with it, and he seems genuine and doesn't even look at the camera while he's talking. So it just, he seems like a really cool, down to earth dude.